This is the Topsky Prime1S. It features diversity receivers, a DVR, and two displays. They're 640 by 480 and 2.5 inches each. So this has both IPD sliders and diopter knobs. So what the IPD sliders do is just move the lenses. They don't move the displays. The displays are in a fixed position. And the diopter knobs push the displays in and out by about 5 or 6 millimeters. So it's not a huge difference, but you can slightly adjust the focal distance. This runs off an internal 1S 2000 milliamp hour battery, has a JST plug, and it charges via the USB port. So you can turn the receiver on and off, and you can input audio video from an external source. USB is for charging the battery, and it's got a headphone jack. On top we've got the record button. This is to start recording. There's a joystick for controlling the DVR menu and reviewing your video, a camera button to take a picture from the DVR. Got band, channel, and search, and the mode button, which will switch between AV and let you control the color, contrast, brightness, and settings. So that's about it for the features. The build quality is pretty decent. It has a weighty feel to it. The plastic seems pretty nice. So let's see what's in the box. It comes with very few accessories. Got an extra sticky thing for the foam, a protector for the joysticks. Here's the headset. And mine didn't come with antennas, but apparently they're going to start including antennas. At least they included an instruction manual. It seems to get the point across, but it is pretty short, and it will help you navigate the menus and work the DVR. They give you an extra face foam, a microfiber cloth, and a pretty decent USB cable. It's rubbery, and it's got a nice connector on it. So I'd like to compare this to the Eachine EV800D. This is more or less the most popular sub $100 headset. It's a little bigger, but it uses a 5-inch 800 by 600 display. It also has diversity and a DVR, so they're both pretty comparable in terms of features. The resolution is a bit sharper on the EV800D. You can see here that also the brightness is a little higher on the EV800D, and the colors seem to be a little more rich. Now pay close attention here. You'll see the screen do a little kind of black tear. I noticed that happens from time to time, and it seems to be some sort of hardware issue. I don't know if this affects all of the Prime1S units, but something to keep in mind. So this is the SJ RGO One. It's another dual screen display, and rather than 640 by 480 displays, it only has 320 by 240. They're smaller, they're 1.5 inch compared to the 2.5 inch displays of the Topsky. So they're a lot more pixelated and much less sharp. They are much brighter though. You can see here the Topsky at max brightness looks very gray, and I think that's a bit of a problem. I've been playing with all the settings, and it doesn't seem to be any way to make it brighter. So this is about as bright as it gets. It's serviceable, but not bright enough in my opinion. Now, if you look at the RGO One, it's substantially brighter. It's probably one of the brighter headsets on the market. So, that's something to keep in mind if you're considering the Topsky. You can also see that the Topsky has a slightly wider field of view. So I was really curious to see what's inside this thing, so I thought I'd add a little teardown portion to the video. You've got 4 screws holding it together, and this bottom plate just snaps off. There are 2 small ribbon cables connecting the USB headphone jack and switches down at the bottom. You have to pull the side tabs out so you can slide the ribbon cable out. Once you've done that, you can set it aside. I noticed the battery has a little indentation on it from the display being pushed into it, so something to keep in mind. Don't want to damage that. There are 2 receivers on either side. and they're connected to the main board by a series of pins. They just slide out. This one has the main power lead, and there's an LED on there to indicate that it's charging. So the display module and the faceplate are all connected, and you have to slide it out. There's a DVR micro SD slot tab that slides into there, and you have to be careful to pull it out. So once that's free, you can disconnect the displays from the main board. So in my case, the joystick for the mode menu is not working quite right. If I press left, nothing happens. So once I'm at max brightness, I can't go back anymore. So really what I wanted to do here is take this all apart and get to that joystick and see if there's anything I can do about it. To do that, I have to remove these ribbon cables and unscrew the main board. There are 6 screws here. So I had a little trouble getting the board out. The joysticks are connected to it, but it turns out you can just pry them off. I didn't get that on video. Anyway, here are the displays. There are a couple of long screws here which they slide along for the diopter control. So I had to remove those, as well as the 4 screws holding them on. So you can see that the displays are in a fixed position, and only the lenses move when you slide the IPDs. This is different from the SJ RGO One, which moves the lenses with the displays internally. This actually seems to work better for me because I don't see much difference when I adjust the IPDs on the RGO One, but with the Topsky, I need to set the IPDs at the widest distance, and that actually makes a big difference for me. It helps me focus better. So here are the displays, little 2.5-inch LCDs, model number, and here's the main board. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a solution to my left click problem. Seems to be a hardware issue, and I'm in talk with Topsky. They're going to send me a replacement board. For fun, I thought I'd connect the display and see what it looks like powered up. I couldn't get a signal on here, but at least you can kind of see how bright it is outside the unit. So putting this thing together was not too bad. But one little trick, you need to connect this board to these ribbons before you put them into the plastic. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to get those ribbon cables in there when it's already screwed down into the casing. So before you screw it in, just make sure the joysticks are straight and that all the buttons are in the proper positions. You might need to tweak it as you go and just do 1 screw at a time just to make sure that everything lines up. Double check the joysticks to make sure that they're not crooked and that they seat onto the joystick tabs. And before you slide this top plate into place, make sure you put the head strap in. Otherwise, it's going to be a real challenge. Get the side straps in as well. This is the final closing. Make sure all the ribbon cables are tucked away and that you got the battery lead out through the battery bay door. And it should just kind of snap together. Screw the screws back in and you're good to go. So this records in 16:9 in 720p. It has no way to record in 4:3, so even if you have a 4:3 camera, you're going to get a 16:9 DVR recording. There's no fast forward or reverse within the DVR firmware, and there's no way to access the DVR settings. This is the same DVR firmware as the Eachine EV200D, but on that one they've got fast forward, they've got a setting menu, and a lot more features. So it seems like Topsky's crippled the firmware quite a bit for this goggle. It would really be nice if it had a fast forward and reverse. So this is a diversity headset, which means it has 2 receivers, and it'll switch between them finding the best signal. But unfortunately, the left receiver just doesn't work. I put my quad quite a distance away and tested a directional antenna on either side, and I get full static if I put it on the left side, and I get a perfectly clear picture on the right side. Unfortunately, I'm not the only person to report this issue, and we've got a couple other reports on the forum. So it's also worth mentioning that pressing left on the mode joystick doesn't work, at least in my case. Seems to be a one-off issue, but I have seen others who receive the goggle with broken joysticks. So there seems to be some sort of issue with their quality control or even the packaging. There's also the black intermittent tear that shows up on the displays from time to time. So that being said, it's a pretty decent goggle. The field of view is good, the resolution is decent, and it's a good size. But there are just a number of issues. Hopefully Topsky can work it out. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hope you can subscribe.